Welcome to the Time to Revenue event. I'm Andy Byrne, founder, CEO of Clary. Now, before we dive into the event, I want everyone to go into the chat and tell me what is the number one revenue metric that you're focused on. Now, at Clary, the number one revenue metric that we're focused on is time to revenue. You know, we're in a really interesting time. It's, a lot of people say it's kind of radical uncertainty. And as a result, a lot of companies are really just focused on cutting costs. But it's only half a strategy, because in this environment, every drop of revenue matters. So cost and revenue is the full strategy that is the most important way to drive companies through these uncertain times. And it's not just simply managing revenue. It is managing your total time to revenue. And what is time to revenue? Time to revenue is how long it takes a company to get results from their revenue process and drive higher performance, higher efficiency, higher predictability, higher growth. Now, what's interesting is that the legacy systems that they have in front of them are slowing them down. CRM, Excel, business intelligence, they're general purpose tools that were not designed from the ground up to let them run revenue. And so as a result, they're being slowed down, and their time to revenue is almost a paralysis of sorts, in that they're chasing down all these revenue critical signals across all these disparate systems. And as a result, their time to revenue is very high. Now, that paralysis leads to what the industry is calling revenue leak, and it's the biggest problem hiding in plain sight. Deals that slip, leads that never get followed up on, targets that never get touched. There's revenue leak happening all over the place as a result of this time to revenue being too high. And quantifying this, Boston Consulting Group, BCG, did a study that suggests that on average, companies are losing 15% of their revenue every year due to revenue leak. Think about that. If you're a leader, think about your operating plan. If you're running $1 billion ARR company, $1 billion in revenue, you're losing $150 million. Imagine if you could get that back. And you know what? You can. How can you get that back? You can master what we call time to revenue. So how do you master time to revenue? Well, first, it's about what the industry is calling getting to total revenue precision, from pervasive revenue leak to total revenue precision. And what that does is that it allows you to drive more efficiency, growth, and predictability. And at Clary, how this works is through our revenue platform. It starts with what we call RevDB, the revenue database, where you're taking all of your revenue critical signal, putting it into one system that's your single source of truth. And it starts with Clary's integration hub, where we are connecting with different partner systems, whether that's Gainsight, Slack, Momentum, Pendo, Crossbeam. Any signal that is going to impact a company's ability to generate revenue is now into our integration hub. And we're not just giving you all of this great technology in this platform, but we're giving you all of the best practices that can be found on runrevenue.pro. And now we're going to bring up Devin, head of content at Clary, to showcase runrevenue.pro and all you can learn from it.
Thanks, Andy. I'm thrilled to walk you through runrevenue.pro, your new home base for all content for running revenue, from ideas, frameworks, and playbooks. And here's what we're going to cover. First, we have trending news, atomic articles, precision playbooks, executive conversations, and the Run Revenue Show. Let's get into it. The first section here is trending news, and this is content and news that's making waves in our industry right now. And most excitingly, you can see that CNBC reported that revenue operations is the #1 fastest growing job in the United States. And if we jump over to atomic articles, you're going to see frameworks that are designed to change the way you think when it comes to operating your business. We've got a great one here from Prime Minister of Revenue, co-founder and CEO of Clary, Andy Byrne, where he shares how you can adopt the framework of revenue collaboration and governance. And if we jump to the middle here, you'll see one of our more popular articles around deal slippage. Slip deals are one of the most damaging types of revenue leak, and that's why our VP of Industries, Anthony Cesario, did this write-up here that shows you why deals are slipping, 4-step process that you can take to avoid deals from slipping, plus a formula you can use to calculate exactly how much revenue you're losing because of slipped deals. All right, let's jump back over to the homepage, and we're gonna hit my favorite section, which is Precision Playbooks. And these are step-by-step guides and templates for your team when they're ready to act. First up, you have the CFO approval guide for when you need to convince senior budget holders. You have sales email templates for when you need to create and accelerate pipeline, plus a mutual action plan template you can use to de-risk every single deal in your pipeline. But RunRevenue.pro isn't just a content hub. You can also subscribe and you'll get an email delivered straight to your inbox every Friday from Andy Byrne with one tip on how to protect your revenue. Next, we have the Race to Revenue video series, where go-to-market leaders reveal how they grow, protect, and expand their customer base. One of my favorites is Kelly Capote, Chief Customer Officer at Gainsight, where she shares her playbook for protecting your customer base during an economic downturn. And last, and the newest addition, is the Run Revenue Show with Kyle Coleman, sales pro turned marketing exec. Every single week, he talks to executives to share how they're going from revenue leak to revenue precision. That ends our tour of RunRevenue.pro. Be sure to check it out, subscribe, and you'll get access to new content added every week. Welcome to the Time to Revenue fireside conversation. I'm joined here by Andy Byrne, CEO of Clary, and Nick Mehta, CEO of Gainsight.
Good.
Now, I was thinking about what icebreaker I need as a moderator, but you guys know each other long before CEO days, right? 20-ish years?
It's amazing, huh?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How'd you guys meet initially?
Well, back in Symantec.
That's right. Exactly.
Right? So Symantec had acquired our company, a company called Clearwell. Nick was at Symantec
Yep.
and was actually critical in thinking through the M&A of Clearwell.
Yeah.
And you were running a division, the
Like
Enterprise Vault division,
Exactly.
which was one of the highest growing, most profitable divisions at Symantec. And we actually put those two companies together and created incredible alchemy. That was just,
And
that was 2011.
And we learned a lot about legal discovery, which
Legal
we've luckily forgotten about now. I don't know about you.
Yes.
I don't remember any of that. So thankfully.
Well, it's just fun to not only go back and think about our journeys as leaders, but our journeys as entrepreneurs.
Yeah, totally.
And the amount of times I've called you and said, hey, can we go for a walk?
Yeah.
Remember in Mountain View, we're walking the streets, and I'm thinking
Totally.
about you helped me with my judgment on the Series B.
Oh, I
was
remember
thinking
the Series
investor,
B. Yeah.
This investor, that investor,
I
multiple
totally remember
turns, and
that
you
walk.
said, Andy, this is how you need to think about it.
Oh, I don't know. Give me too much credit, but I totally have learned so much from you guys. I mean, we've been on such similar journeys, Gainsight and Clary, over the time frame that we both kind of been at this, and hopefully a lot more to go, right? And I just
Absolutely.
remember you got your founding team and you guys kind of getting together and just getting this thing started. And obviously, we've been a Gainsight and Clary customer for a long time, and I refreshed that dashboard at the end of the quarter, nonstop, just like every CEO out there. So
I know. I think, okay, what is Gain? I'm about to go into this customer account.
Yeah.
What's Gainsight telling me?
Yeah,
Right?
exactly.
So it's fun to see the evolution of both companies become true powerhouses in their respective markets.
Awesome.
That's
Thanks,
great.
man.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, it's super fun
Super
and
cool.
honored, and also I'll just say, Nick, just a ton of gratitude for you, man. Just
Oh, thanks, man.
I think about the critical decisions that I've made in the journey of Clary. It's been a decade now.
Decade for me too.
And
Yeah.
your advice has been, pivotal. It really has.
Oh, thanks,
Yeah.
man. I've learned so much from you guys too,
Yeah.
and we both have a lot more to go. So let's talk about the future.
Let's do it. Let's talk about the
Yeah.
future.
Lots of overlap. That's why we had you both here today. So
Appreciate it.
let's get right into it, Andy.
Sure.
I'll start with you a little bit. What is time to revenue,
Yeah.
and why is it so important right now for leaders?
Yeah, time to revenue is the amount of time companies spend trying to get results from their revenue systems. And their existing legacy systems that they have CRM, Excel, business intelligence, it's really slowing them down in their ability to actually produce those revenue results. So that's time to revenue.
That really resonates with me, Andy, by the way, because I've just seen like in our own business that, same with you, over 10 years, things change so much, right? Like, you got, go growth years and COVID and then the 2021 boom and then the whatever we're in now. And like, we're constantly having to rethink what is our strategy and growth and revenue. And, frankly, not trying to make a commercial for Claire, but we definitely appreciate having all that stuff at our fingertips all the time. So
I appreciate that. I do think that if I think about the revenue process, people used to think about, hey, revenue is an outcome. Totally. We now know that over the last decade, people realize revenue is a process. It's arguably the most important business process in the company.
Seriously. Yeah.
We have the rise of the CRO.
Yeah.
We have, CNBC dropped their recent jobs report that said the fastest growing job in America is revenue operations.
Pretty amazing.
Which is great.
That's awesome.
But if you think about all of the different moments where revenue happens, and the time it takes to produce that revenue, there's a huge opportunity to accelerate it.
Yeah.
Who doesn't want that?
And Nick, your mission is similar at Gainsight, right? Because you're helping CXOs with durable growth, focusing on net revenue retention. Why is centralizing customer data so important right now in 2023?
Totally, yeah. I mean, I feel like, Andy, we've been like brothers from another mother because we're kind of approaching the same thing from two different vantage points, but it's the same underlying problem, which is we all want to build companies that are built to last and that can survive through thick and thin. And of course, we all had this period of, I don't know, past 10 years or so where it felt like the strategy to do that is just grow at all costs, right? And raise as much money as possible, grow at all costs. And obviously, and all of us got into that to some extent or another. But I think what people realized is that was definitely a mirage, that was a bubble. And like the only way to build a lasting business is to have what we call a durable approach to growth, right? Which is like a business that's going to continue to grow, to drive revenue through thick and thin. And a big part of durable growth, not the only part, but a part of it is how do I grow more effectively through my customers, right? By retaining them, expanding them, making them better advocates, also having your product do a better job of kind of self-serving those customers with product-led growth, having your community, get your customers to be advocates. This idea of how do you actually grow through your biggest asset, which is your customers, which by the way, I'm sure is a huge chunk of Clary's growth, is your amazing customers, right? And then on the same time, how do you do it in an efficient way? Because we don't have infinite capital. I don't know about you. Maybe you have. Is there infinite capital sitting around here somewhere? I don't have it. And so
it's right over there.
Exactly.
Right on the corner. And so there's a tree right there.
So we can't. Our customers can't hire 1,000 more CSMs or 1,000 more salespeople. They want to find a way to actually grow in an efficient and durable way. And it seems like that's a mega trend in the industry.
I think it definitely. If I go to our board conversations that we're having, I think about. Now we're over 1,000 customers.
Amazing.
And,
awesome.
If you think about in this environment, yes, you want to expand your addressable market. You want more logos, but the probability of getting more from your current customer base is arguably the highest board level topic of, what more can we do for the customers? Can we earn the right to actually expand our value footprint and monetize that? And that's where Gainsight does come in for us, and it's a pivotal piece of our infrastructure.
Appreciate that. Yeah. Thanks.
Let's talk about impact a little bit, especially because when you think about the status quo, a lot of people hear you, but their way they're operating is the way it's always been, the way it simply is, right? They don't know that there's a problem yet. So what are some of the signs that leaders can look out for to say, hey, my time to revenue is too high. I'm not being efficient enough with my strides for durable growth. What are those signs they can be looking for?
Yeah, I think what will be important for the audience to know is more the specifics of time to revenue, right? Let's get it from this cool marketing phrase down to street level. How long does it take a rep to manage their deal, to get it into a really good spot? The time to do that. How long does it take the manager to know where they have risk in their pipeline, know where there's hidden upside for next quarter that they can pull in? How long does that take? That's time to revenue. How long does it take a regional director to roll up their forecast and accurately call, are they going to meet, beat, or miss on revenue? So these are 3 examples of time to revenue. And the speed at which they need to do this now, right, is so paramount, so important. And if you're in Excel, if you're in a CRM that doesn't work that well, the burden is when we think about in this environment, we're triaging deals to understand whether or not those deals are actually going to help us drive growth or drive customer happiness. If you're late and it takes too long, your revenue is leaking, then it's going to have a profound impact on your top line, your bottom line, and there's a trickle down effect on time to revenue. So it's a really important topic that people are discussing.
And I mean, you've seen it, like companies that don't get time to revenue right, you get in this spiral where you slow down growth, and then you have less OpEx to go invest, so you can't do as much R&D, so you're going to slow down growth more, and you're going to get worse and worse. And like, if you don't get what you're talking about right, I mean, the company's going to end up in a very bad place for a lot of businesses.
And I think, Nick, what's really interesting about that is that think about all these time to revenue moments, right? There is a new logo, there is a upsell, cross-sell, net dollar retention, right? If you look at that on aggregate, to your point, and you go back to durable growth, right? If you can be a student of this strategy of time to revenue and you look at your revenue process through that frame, you will see things that you've never seen before as a leader and start to drive a new way of running revenue, and that will lead to durable growth.
Totally, 100% right. They're so tied together.
Either of you can take the question, but do you have any examples of maybe like an aha moment, right? You're talking to a customer and you're kind of just shedding a light on this concept, showing them, hey, there's all these moments and you're missing them or you're slow on them. Can you maybe walk us through a street level example there?
So I can give you an example from last night.
Nice.
I'm at the bar at Woodside Bakery having dinner with my wife, and right next to me, somebody says, "You're Andy Byrne, you're Clary, right?" right next to my wife. My wife rolls her eyes.
Yeah, exactly right. She loves
and
this.
And he said to me, "Clary has transformed not just the way we run revenue, but my life." He's a regional vice president.
Amazing.
Wow.
And he said, "My weekends are totally different. Like, I go into the weekend knowing how the inventory moved, where I've got deals that are slipping, where I have risk, where I have upside." And the speed at which he was able to do that through all of the signal, where we're analyzing all the conversational data, we're looking at, okay, your mix of revenue is going to change, where he should spend time on Monday.
Right.
He no longer is doing that on Sunday night. So that's a specific human example where we transform that life of that person that not only helps them be a better leader, but actually helps them be a better family member. And I thought that was pretty profound. That was last night over a cocktail.
Talk
that was
about a
cool.
Relentless CEO getting case studies over dinner. I'm
and your wife
well
rolling
I'm
her
sure your
eyes.
wife's totally psyched about that. That's awesome. I'll share one that's pretty interesting. Like we, when you look at all the running revenue, time to revenue, look at durable growth. A lot of it's like, how do you get to the point where you can really quantify the impact of what we're talking about?
Yeah.
And so one of our customers the last few years is Atlassian. They're presenting at our Pulse conference coming up in May, and I saw the preview of the presentation. And this woman named Gertie Rizzo, who runs customer success at Atlassian, she, you know Atlassian, obviously everyone uses Jira. It's very popular. The culture of that company historically was extremely product only, right? Like they actually didn't, as you probably know, they didn't have a lot of salespeople for a long time. They definitely didn't have CSMs for a long time. And one of the things they have is an extreme approach to experimentation, like prove it to me with data, right? Like, and they're the founders, as Scott Meiker's so smart.
Yeah.
And so Gertie's going to present, what did she do to prove how customer success is having an impact on durable growth, where she's actually showing kind of an A/B study. So, A versus B, like similar customers. They use Gainsight, we're intervening with these customers. And how is that actually impacting likely to retain, net retention for those customers, adoption? And I love stories like that because if you don't quantify the impact in this environment, it's hard to justify investment.
No,
right?
totally. I totally agree. I think, from our perspective, we do what's called a revenue leak assessment.
Yeah, I've seen that. That's awesome.
So we turn on the platform. There's no change management. And we show them things that they've never seen before, and they're blown away. And so we start there. And then, unlike the three-headed hydra, as the market calls it, CRM, Excel, and BI, where they feel like they've spent $1 and they get a quarter back. What's nice about the systems that we've built is that you can look at reduced churn rates. You could look at increased conversion rates. You can look at higher quality pipeline. And it's not a magical spreadsheet value engineering exercise that looks great in a PDF. It's actually real value that's
awesome.
being delivered by these new systems.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
I like it. Well, time to revenue clearly has a huge impact.
Yeah.
Let's segue a little bit to what listeners, right, revenue leaders, what can they do, right? What are some action they can start to take? Maybe it's just thinking differently, or actual action, maybe some processes. So let's start with new logo acquisition. Andy, how can mastering time to revenue help revenue leaders get more new logos?
I'm going to take notes on this one. I want to learn.
Okay, so how can revenue leaders, what can they do today
Yeah,
to
right.
master
They
time
see
to
the
revenue?
problem. They hear the impact. Now they're like, help me, Andy. What do I do?
Yeah, well, it depends on where you are in the hierarchy, right? So at a rep level, they need a system to say to them, hey, we've looked across your inventory and here's where you have risk, right? Here's where you should spend time. They're doing that manually today, right? You need a system that's going to automate all of their manual data entry, right? And at that level, and giving them time back to understand where they should, because time is ultimately the most valuable resource that they have, right? And imagine that if they do that, they have the ability to not just close one more deal, to create higher conversions across their pipeline, but it also gives them time to think about how are they going to create more pipeline, right? So that's an example of where these new systems that they can use that's going to allow them to effectively have their own chief of staff that's helping them run their book of business, creating a book, and then converting that book to closure. If I rise all the way up, and we'll go up to now a CRO or boards, they need the ability to have an always-on interface that is telling them proactively, are they going to meet, beat, or miss on revenue? And it's not just one number, it's a multi-dimensional rubric that is revenue. We're thinking about pipe creation, we're thinking about product line, segment, geo. We need to have those systems, not waiting and saying, hey, can you tell the revenue ops or sales ops people to go build me a report, and can I have it on my desk on Sunday? These need to be real-time systems that are proactively letting us know, how are we tracking, how are we trending? That will allow them to reduce the time to revenue, know where they should be spending their time, and increase the probability of hitting or exceeding their growth targets into the public parlance of saying, we need a beat and raise cadence. And that's how that all works. Anyway.
Sounds like they need a way to answer $1 million questions in 2 clicks, not 2 weeks.
There you go.
Right?
That's a great way
Yeah,
of putting
I
it.
like it. Nick, what about you in terms of protecting the customer base?
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, totally. And one thing I'll just say on what you said is it really resonates the way you described it, because one of the things I've noticed is a lot of private equity firms have kind of standardized on what do we need to run a predictable, durable business. A lot of them use Gainsight, a lot of them use Clarity. I've seen it, and you can see why to a PE person, everything you talked about is like music to their ears, right? And so that resonates. So for us, kind of using similar kind of concept, I think there's 3 challenges people run into when they think about how do I go from good to great in terms of being a durable growth business and customer success and all that. Number one is predictability, right? So your customer base should be the most predictable part of your business.
Yeah.
There's some element of new logo that is a little bit naturally variant based on the economy and things like that. So, most companies, once you get sophisticated, you got something like a customer health score, which should kind of predict the likelihood of that customer to renew and expand.
Yeah.
And, Gainsight, we've been doing this, 10 years ourselves, using our own stuff. And, our Kelly Capote, our chief customer officer, they every year, and then also every quarter, they refresh the health score algorithm. They use it to predict the next year, and they're accurate within like half a point of GRR, like all the time. So if you don't have that level of predictability in the business, that's a huge opportunity, because that's a foundation. If your retention is predictable, then you can layer on all those other investments. And so number one is predictability. Number two is really thinking about efficiency. So I think, again, in this last 10 years, it's like, hey, hire everyone you want, right? And now it's like, no, we can't do that anymore.
Yeah.
So what are you doing to invest in a more digital first, more automated approach to your customer journey, right? Not to say we don't want humans, but how do we do more through digital? And some customers want that, right? So one of our customers is Miro. They do the kind of collaborative whiteboarding and all that kind of stuff. And they do an amazing job of everything from like, automating some of the CSM activities, to using a community to get everyone connected together. We have a community product as well, to doing stuff inside the product to guide the user. I know Clary does a lot of this stuff too. It's like, how do we use all the channels to scale net retention and customer success, not just rely on the individual CSM to do everything. And then the final one really is really thinking about how do I actually go and show the impact of what we're all doing, right? The impact to the revenue, the impact to product. And there what we're seeing is companies much better job of collaborating between sales and product, sales and CS, collaborating between sales and CS, right? The sales and CS need to be super tight. I think your team does a great job of this. One of our longtime customers is Workday, and they do an amazing job now of the account-based selling organization, which is the account management organization, and the CS organization, building these collaborative plans in Gates, in our case, to figure out not just like, what are we going to do to expand this customer, but what value do we need to deliver to actually make that expansion possible, right? Yeah. What do we need to do from a customer success perspective? How's that going to translate then to the sales and the expansion of that customer? So to me, it's those three things of like predictability, efficiency, and then kind of the impact to revenue that are the difference between good and great in CS.
It's interesting. We see that in our use of Gainside, where it's not just the relationship workflow that is happening at the CSM level, but it's all the digital signal. It's everything that's coming through. And I think what's important now in modern post-sales, net dollar retention, looking at upsell, looking at cross-sell, looking at white space, looking at adoption with that. And you see there's the relationship human side, and then there's all just the product usage as well. And putting that all together allows you to have a high fidelity understanding of, is this going to renew?
Exactly.
Do we really have the ability to upsell, cross-sell? And for that, Gainside's been fantastic for us.
Appreciate that. And this economy, by the way, the relationship on its own isn't enough, because unfortunately that person could be gone like tomorrow, right? And what are you going to do to be durable through that? So
we've talked a lot about signals, metrics. I want to dig into you specifically though. So as you're working on your time to revenue, durable growth, what are you looking at right now to look at your business and say, it's working? Some things are on the up and up. Now, caveat, we're in SaaS. Something's always broken. But what are the things we're looking for to say, hey, it's our initiatives are working, or we're doing some of the right things? Is there one or two things maybe, Andy, that's on your mind?
I mean, I think there's a rotation to leading indicator data, right? In terms of pipe that we're creating. There's a lot of focus around out quarter management. So if I was to give you two things that a lot of the customers that we speak to at the board level, they're really doing a higher level of scrutiny on that. And then as a result, they're finding moments where there is leak that's happening in both areas. And they're actually going to not just look at the systems, but they're also looking at the process by which they create the pipeline, the process by which they upsell and cross-sell. And that whole process is a very interesting dimension of being able to drive more efficiency, drive more durability, drive more predictability. So that's the board level conversations around those leading indicators.
I like it. Nick?
Yeah, I mean, I think the one right now that's hot for everyone, and I think my guess is Clary too, is the biggest opportunity and threat in the customer base in SaaS right now is vendor consolidation, right? And it's like, it's an opportunity because many people have launched multiple products. So in our case, we've got a customer success product. We've got a product that does like in-app analytics and guides. We've got a product around community, and there's a value of connecting them all together to help you scale. And so we want to get that combined solution to our customers to help them scale their customer journey, right? And if we do, we're going to increase when we do, we're going to increase our share of wallet. We're going to actually increase our sales efficiency because obviously expansion is more efficient. So that is I had my board meeting yesterday. So that's definitely the hot topic for us, is how do we actually help consolidate in our customer base, drive more value for them, less vendors. And of course the threat is, if we're not doing that, if you're not doing that, if Clary's not doing that, somebody else is going to do that to you, right? So we have to get above the fold. And I think Clary's doing that too, where you have this awesome product suite now that's not just what people think of as kind of Clary 1.0, right?
Yeah, for sure. I think about, the acquisitions that we've made, and then the value footprint that's our value footprint that's expanded as a result of those acquisitions. We acquired a company called Wingman that's doing the conversational intelligence. Awesome. We announced our Rev GPT, which is now doing the summaries around all these transcripts. I think what's fun is to see the customer embrace additional technology, and we're allowing them to simplify the user experience, get out of multiple systems, and then also reduce their tech spend and their tech stack complexity. And yeah, that's a big trend that's happening for sure.
Love it. Awesome.
Yeah.
So I love fireside conversations because I get to go behind the scenes, right? What are CEOs seeing? What are you hearing? And for our last question, what are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
So I want to know from each of you. Nick, you can kick us off on this
Sure.
one. What's one thing that you're doing in your business this year that might surprise our listeners?
Yeah, so I don't know how much will surprise people or not, but we have our big conference. It's called Pulse. It comes up May 17th, 18th in San Francisco. It's kind of the big customer success industry event. We've done it. It's to be our 11th conference, so it's kind of a lot of history. You guys do a lot of events as well, and so obviously that's a big thing for the company. You got to get all the announcements, all the fun, all that stuff. So we're all working super hard on it.
Yeah.
The two things that we're working on, one is obviously, and they both tie to generative AI. No surprise, right? Because that's obviously the hot topic. The one that is very on brand for Gainsight is we're gonna have a very fun opening video that may or may not have multiple versions of me, generative and AI versions of Nick, all talking to each other. So as if one Nick wasn't enough, and like I think the world
multiple
really
Nicks,
could not
careful,
handle multiple
careful.
Nicks. So that's probably maybe par for the course for Gainsight. But then the thing that's kind of tied to that is this generative AI technology, as what you guys are doing, RevGPT. Obviously, everyone knows it's just the biggest thing, probably we experience our lifetime.
Yeah.
But the thing that's interesting is it's such a huge thing for driving more value from software companies. Because I think software companies historically have been like, we build software, Gainsight, we build software that makes your team more efficient and more effective, but it's harder to automate everything end to end.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's an opportunity in the next few years to really automate more, drive more value and more scale in a way that could be like 10x bigger than what we're working on. So for us, just like a little teaser, is we're gonna release 3 different AI capabilities. One of them is, I'd say for any executive, is, to me, at least for me, it's my number one thing I want, which is I go into a meeting with a customer. Of course, I use Gainsight, look up all the data about that, but I want the story of this customer, right? And so sometimes what I'll have my team do is give me the story of the history and what are the things we can talk about. And what's amazing is we have a prototype now, generative AI, basically using GPT-4, and it generates a story of this customer and everything you need to talk about and their goals and what our priorities are. And it's auto-generated, and it's way better than anything my team's ever prepared for me. I'm sure you've gotten prepped for meetings. And it's this idea of like, gosh, like we can be so much better for our customers using this stuff.
That's
and so
right.
to me, we're just going to unlock, not just Gainsight, all of us, incredible value from software, bringing this generative AI stuff into what we're doing.
Yeah, I think that for us, if I think about, yes, we're software companies, but at the core, we're actually data companies.
Yes.
Think about the data that we're analyzing, right? We're creating, in our case, we're creating a RevDB, a revenue database, right? It didn't exist in the enterprise, right? You have your CRM database, you have your customer success database. So now that you have a revenue database where all of your revenue critical information is finally in one place, all historically snapshotted, using generative AI on that data, as we think about the marriage of the data, the generative AI, and how you run the revenue process, right? If you zoom down into who's running what meeting, what are they doing on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday of week 1 of this month, of this quarter. I think what's powerful is looking at, and that we call that a revenue cadence. What is your revenue cadence? How do you run it end to end? Not just new logo, but also your net dollar retention cadence. So we're going to be talking more about revenue cadences and the ability to streamline that and show the customer where they're great and where they're, I'll just say, not so great. And there's a lot of areas to improve. I think generative AI will speed up and accelerate their ability to identify where they have issues. And then going back to time to revenue, right? And you think about what generative AI will do to be able to speed up the ability to deduce along every single revenue moment across that 13-week cadence. I think in the next 12 months, you're going to see profound change in our industry that will lead to remarkable results. So that's what we're working on.
Gentlemen, thank you for the time and your insights. Always good to hear your experience. Thanks for tuning in. If you want to master your time to revenue, jump over to clary.com. And of course, if you want more content so you can run revenue like a pro, check out runrevenue.pro. See you next time.
Remember when CRM was all you had? It was enough for a while. Then suddenly, forecast meetings took 4 times longer because everyone was showing up with their own reports and arguing about who had the right answer. You entered spreadsheet hell, and that didn't work either. So you decided the charts just weren't pretty enough. Enter business intelligence? Not enough business or intelligence. Everyone put on their lab coats and pretended to be a data scientist. But revenue leaders weren't built for Tableau. Everyone figures that's just the way it is and puts up with it. So what happens? Sure thing deals slip to the next quarter.
We did everything right, but I didn't see this coming.
Clunky customer handoffs frustrate clients.
Not sure if you've answered this already, but what problems are you trying to solve?
That's not just the way it is. It's actually revenue leak. Revenue leak is revenue you've earned, but isn't hitting your bottom line. And revenue leak is destroying your targets, shrinking your pipeline, and eroding your bottom line. But it's not your fault. There hasn't been an enterprise system for running the most important process to every business: revenue. A revenue platform brings together your teams and your data to help you achieve revenue precision. What's revenue precision, you ask? When executives accurately call their number 2 weeks into the quarter instead of hours before the quarter ends. Managers immediately spot deal risks and avoid missing quota. And reps deliver a smooth buyer journey every single time. A revenue platform brings your teams together to collaborate on the same data so they can control every step of the customer journey. That's how you move from wondering to knowing precisely what's happening in your business. And only Clary's revenue platform helps you stop revenue leak, hit your number, and protect your customer base.